Okay. Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Sorry for the long delay there at startup. Wasn't getting feedback saying that we had started. So let me make an adjustment here, and we'll go ahead and get started. So on your screen here, you're seeing the dash login page, which is -dash.virtualpbx.com. If you don't have this already bookmarked, you can also navigate here going to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and then you'll see a dash login link there and get to this page. You'll need your username, which is typically your email address, a password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. If you just signed up as yourself, it could just be your name listed here. Now, if for some reason you didn't get an email, or the email didn't include your password, then you can click here under Forgot Your Info. And again, the system's going to ask you for your email address. And then we need either your account name or your account phone number. All right, so typically the account name is easier. You click Reset Password, you'll get an email, and it'll log you into the system to change your password. Once you've changed your password, it will then log you back out and make you log in with that new password. And then normally I tell people just to go ahead and click on the Remember Me there. And then we'll go ahead and get logged in here. And there we go. Now, if it's your first time logging into Dash, you're actually not taken to this page right away. Instead, you get taken to a page that will look like this. So this is your account information. You can adjust your time zone, for example. Also, your first time logging in, the Dash Wizard will pop up. So there'll be little pop-up windows explaining what everything is. If you're a system admin, you also have this account level here, or your account level settings. And the main thing that's changed here is the time zone, so that way you can change your time zone to the appropriate area. Normally, we just tell people to if you click here, you have a search bar, like just search for like New York or Chicago, or I think Denver and Los Angeles to be the easiest ones to find. Now, this is a test account that I'm looking at here. On your accounts, you actually have a section over here on the left underneath user that has your billing information. So you can see like your service plan. You can update the billing contact information. You can update your credit card, and you can see previous invoices. Now, when you're done with here, or this area here, go ahead and click on Close, and then you'll be taken here to your dashboard. Again, that first time logging in, the wizard will come up and point out different aspects of it. So up here at the top, click on your name. That will always take you back to that account page that we were just looking at. DND stands for Do Not Disturb. If you toggle this on, that means calls to your user go directly to voicemail. If you're logged into a queue, that means you're not going to be offered any calls from a queue, for example. Now, here we got the little question mark icon. You got Chat with Us, which will open up a chat window with our support team. Learn More will take you to the support pages directly, so you can see guides or other videos. The online store just goes to store.virtualpbx.com, so you can order a physical VoIP phone, for example, or the desktop softphone app. And then here we have the web phone link. This only shows up once you've added a web phone to your user, and then only then after you've logged back in, right? So you have to add the web phone, log out, log back in, and then this will show up. This opens up a new tab to webphone.virtualpbx.net and allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Over here, we've got the hamburger or menu icon, right? The horizontal lines. We're currently on the dashboard, and we'll be going through most of these other features. Some of these are paid features, or they're associated with different plan levels. So as we come to those, I'll try to make sure to mention those, like ACDQs, that, and we'll go from there. And then lastly, we've got the logout icon here. Over here on the left, going down here, these starting at the dashboard and working our way down, these are the core features of Dash. The majority of these are on every account. There are a couple exceptions, like auto attendance is a plan-specific feature. In the middle here, we've got your total users. These are all the people on your account who are making and receiving calls, right? Depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill or may not. Then down below, we got total devices. I have 36 on this account. And we have breakdowns here, right? So cell phone, that's pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, which I just briefly talked about. Soft phone, this is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive a phone call. This can include the VirtualPBX soft phone application, whether on mobile or desktop, as well as a third-party soft phone application that you could be using software from Counterpath. It can also include a VoIP phone that you use the software credentials to program or provision. Next up, we've got SIP phone. All right, this is a physical VoIP phone, probably sits on a desk. This has been auto-provisioned on the account, and we'll go over that briefly. And then lastly, there's landline, which is pretty self-explanatory. Down here, I've got unregistered devices. I have 11 of them. That means the system has detected that 11 of my VoIP devices are not connected, meaning we can't send calls to them. Next, we have total phone numbers, 49. These are customer-facing phone numbers, right? So someone would typically dial these numbers to get to my account here to talk to my staff members. And then we've got a breakdown. We've got assigned and spare numbers. An assigned number means it goes someplace, right? It's one of your main numbers. It's going to, your salesperson Bob, goes to your billing department, etc. A spare number means it's a number on your account, but you're not using it, right? Doesn't ring to anybody. Now, depending on your plan, right? Your plans include anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that allotment, you're going to be paying per phone number, anywhere from $1.99 per month per phone number up to, I believe, the high side is $4.99 per month per phone number. So no matter what, I'm paying extra here for phone numbers. And that would include spare numbers. So even if you're not using it, if you're over your allotment, it still counts as a number on your account. Right. Then we got another breakdown here, USDID and then US toll-free. Right, toll-free 800 number, right, 888 all the way down to 833. These also work in Canada. And then USDID, that would be a US local number, right? So a number, say, in San Jose, California versus a number in Raleigh, North Carolina, and anywhere in between. You can have international numbers on your account. If you are interested in adding one, you need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a phone number in. They'll let you know if there's any additional requirements, right? Some countries need proof of presence within that city, like Germany, for example, and that's usually like a utility bill is usually sufficient. Some countries are much more stringent than that, others are less. So they'll let you know if there's anything else that's needed. Next up, we've got conference bridges. I have 5. This means I've enabled conferencing as a feature on 5 of my users. right? Now you can't actually do that until you have a conference number. So over here on the top right, you got your main numbers, right? These right here. Hoping that it wouldn't trigger that. So your main numbers, these are your general phone numbers that most people call initially to get to your system. These numbers all behave in the same fashion. Wow, this is taking a long time to load back up here. Apologize for that. But that means that they will have the same routing. And for instance, like if you go to your virtual receptionist, they'll all have the same main greeting. Conference number, right? This one enables conferencing on the account and allows you to enable conferencing on a user. But this phone number, all your staff and anyone joining the conference calls this number to join the conference room. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you wish. The fax box number, you can have one fax box number. This is so you can receive faxes. It also enables faxing on the account in general. The company directory, this downloads a text file, shows all your users with their extension numbers. The soft phone directory is a download link. This is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. So you would download this file, then upload it to your desktop soft phone, and this will allow you to see your fellow staff members that have soft phones. You can also be able to see their status, right? So see if they're on a call or if they've marked themselves away, that sort of thing. You have a store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store. And then lastly here, you've got the account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, it's used to program third-party application, right? So if you're using a soft phone from Counterpath, you would need this piece of information as well as a couple others to program that piece of software. Likewise, you would use this to program a VoIP phone that didn't show up in the auto provision list. And then the other thing is used for faxing out. So currently on Dash, faxing out is an email to fax feature. You would create an email. In the to field of that email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number that you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you simply attach a PDF or TIFF file and send it out. Now, in that email, there's no point in typing in the body of that email because that information will not get transmitted. The system just grabs the email or grabs the attachment from the email, and that's the only thing that gets faxed is the attachment. So it's one attachment per email. One thing to keep in mind. Again, PDF or TIFF. It does take time for the system to process faxes. As early on in testing, I was able to send out a 7 megabyte fax, which is huge. And that took over an hour for me to get the notification that it actually went through. So something to keep in mind there. All right, up top here, we've got the company caller ID. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't always allow me to show you the pull downs, but you can select any of your main numbers, right? So any of these 4 numbers over here, you could select. Then you got the company caller ID name or CNAME. You can input up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. And after you click Save Changes, that information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. And that's the extent of the service, right? So in terms of VirtualPBX, right, this is called the provisioning aspect of company caller ID name, right? So we're like, hey, here it's set up. Now, the other aspect of CNAME is delivery, and that's handled by other carriers, right? So not every carrier that your call can route through supports CNAME, right? So a typical call, you can route through, half dozen to 20 something carriers potentially. Some of them are the big names that you all know, like AT&T, et cetera, but there's also some smaller ones that most people don't know, right? Just because they're local or regional carriers. So if your call happens to route through a carrier that doesn't support CNAME, your CNAME information doesn't get to your destination. Ultimately, that carrier for that destination device does have the most say in what displays on the phones. So like cell phone carriers, for example, don't typically offer CNAME as included in their service, right? They control what shows up on their cell phones on their network, right? That's why sometimes when you get a call on your cell phone, it says spam risk. That's your cell phone carrier saying, hey, we think this is a spam call. Now, some cell phone carriers also provide CNAME as a paid service for an additional like $10 a month or something like that. And even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority, right? Their first priority is connect the call. So if they're having very heavy call volume, then your CNAME information may not get through. All right, down here we've got your company emergency information, or E911. You just want to put your address here. This would be the default phone number or an address associated with this phone number. So that is your VoIP phone users dial 911. This is the address that gets sent to your emergency services. Right? Each phone number can have their own address, and thus you can assign the different phone numbers to your different devices for E911 purposes. Right, hold music. You can have custom hold music on Dash. You can upload your own file. You sit here and find it on your computer. Now in Dash, you want to upload either a .wav or .mp3 file. And then you would click on the little upload icon here. A couple things to keep in mind is you want to make sure this file is recorded in mono, not in stereo. You want to keep it under 1 megabyte in size, and it should be a .wav or .mp3 format. Once the file is done uploading, you click on Save Changes. Now, music on hold on Dash, this is after a call has connected to one of your users, right? So a call comes in, the inbound caller is hearing ringing. They get connected to one of your staff members, they start talking. Your staff member realizes they need to put this customer on hold. They press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when hold music starts playing. Right, now, hours here is actually part of main number. So let's just go to main number and go through the whole thing instead of popping up and down around it. And the main number typically does take longer to load than the other pages, and that has more to do with the virtual receptionist as being a part of it, just because there's so many options associated with the virtual receptionist. All right, here we go. So first up, we got your main company numbers. If you click up here, you'll see your numbers here. So these numbers are all active as your main numbers. Right? If you decide you don't want to use one any longer, like this one here, you can just click unassign it or unassign. And what that does is it just removes it as a main number. It's still on my account, so I can reassign it to one of my salespeople, for example, or into my sales group. Likewise, if you want to add a number, you can either add from your spare numbers, right? So these are numbers you already have on your account, so you're already paying for them. Right, so you can add any of these directly to this section here. Right, you just put a check mark here, and then click on Add Selected. Or you can buy new numbers. So local, you would enter in an area code. Let's try 650. There you go. You would click add on a number you want. You can add multiple. You can scroll down. If there's more numbers available, the system will keep populating a list. If not, then that lets you know, oh, that's all we have available. You can remove a number from the cart, right, by clicking on the little icon there. Otherwise, you would buy numbers. Likewise for toll-free. A little easier in the fact that it just gives you the prefixes right off the bat. So you find the prefix you're looking for, click search, and you'll see the available numbers. And if you scroll down, it'll probably get more numbers. Would have thought there would be more, but again, you click add, and then you would click by numbers, and that would add it to the account. And in this case, right, I'm adding it directly as a main number. You can do this on a user page. You can add it directly to the user. Same with your ring groups, to your ACDQs, etc. Right. That just saves you a step instead of adding it to your spare numbers and then moving it around. Now, any phone number has a little gear icon, and you've got these other options. So caller ID, right? So you can set up the CNAM for that phone number. You can also turn on inbound CNAM for calls coming into that number. You can set up the E911, right? So that would be an address specific to this phone number. Prepend, this is for VoIP phones. You can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on the phone's display. Right, so you can say like, New York sale, right? And then that would show up on your Cisco phone when the call comes in. You're like, oh, I came in for the New York sale phone number. All right, office hours strategy. For new accounts, you start off with 24-hour open office. Otherwise, you can do custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark. And then in these boxes to the right, you enter in your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You can also type in the time, right? So like if you want to say 5:45, right, and since that's not an option, you could type in 17:45, and that will still stick. Down at the bottom, you also have the option to say you're closed for lunch. And if you put a check mark there, then you enter in your lunch hours in 24-hour time as well. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark. And then over here to the right, under Add Holiday, you have the option for single day, date range, and advanced. Right? So single day, like here I have for President's Day. So each one of those creates a new row. So you give it a name in the box, and then you select the month and the day. Right? So yesterday was President's Day. For date range, like I have up here for Christmas, I just put the start date and the end date. The main caveat here is you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and that's just because there's no year indicator, so the system may put you in after hours mode all year. And then for the advanced options, that's this one here, retreat, where I'm saying, hey, the first Friday in July is company picnic day, we're closed. Right, so this pull down is first through fourth as well as last, right, and then it's each day of the week. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. Next up, we've got incoming call handling. So this is in relation to your main numbers. Right, so right now, up here, I've got these three main numbers. If I go down to incoming call handling. So for the calls come in on any of those three numbers during my open hours, right now I'm having it go to my virtual receptionist. Right, I have tabs here for my lunch hours, my after hours, and my holidays. Right, they all have the same basic options. So we'll go through these here. So when you click on virtual receptionist, you click on the link there where it says virtual receptionist. It will open up a box here. Now on the left is your main menu, right? So these are what people press on their phones to navigate through the system. Right, and then on the right, you've got your greeting options and then some settings. Now, if you need to add a route, right, which if you've just signed up, you probably need to do, you just click right here where it says Add Route, and then you've got the default option, and then 0 through 9, as well as star, and then here you would choose where it's going. So, right here, right. Got the Smart PBX directory, right, the user directory. You can send it to a specific user. And if the user doesn't answer, it goes to their voicemail box. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device. This isn't typically recommended just because if that device doesn't have voicemail, then the call would end. Media file, so you can just have it play greeting. Also not recommended just because once the media file is done playing, the call ends. All right. Groups. Groups are short for ring groups, right? So these can be departments. Advanced call flows. These are additional auto attendants. So if your plan includes multiple auto attendants, then you'll have the ability to do what's called sub-menuing. So for instance, I can say on my main greeting, for English, press 1, for Spanish, press 2. Then I can make options 1 and 2 go to additional attendants here, right? So I can say this is English and this is Spanish, right? And when they press either of those options, right? So they press 2 to go to Spanish, they would go to this attendant. They would then hear a Spanish greeting, right? And then I can give them Spanish menu options in Spanish, and they press those, and they can go to Spanish-speaking staff. Versus if they press 1 to go to English, they'd hear a greeting in English. They'd have their own menu options there, which would go to English-speaking staff. Right? And then lastly, you can send it to a voicemail box on the system. All right, greeting types, text-to-speech. You simply type in a greeting up to about 350 characters total. You click update. You would then hit save, and then save changes over here. It's a computerized robotic voice. There's no charge for it. I usually recommend this for like startups or for people who are not used to a PBX system in general, just to get an idea of what it's going to do and how to adjust. Like you're probably like in a startup case, you might end up adjusting your routing fairly often when you as you get going, and then once you get everything solidified, then you can look at some of the other greeting options. Upload your own file, right? Choose the file. Again, .wave.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then you would upload it here. You would click update, then save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. This is a pull down that shows all of your media files that you've uploaded. So that includes voicemail greetings, other main greetings, etc. Select the one you want to use, click update, save, then save changes. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone to record it over the phone. If you notice down here under settings, I have allow outside recording clicked on. That means I'm allowing the use of cell phone or voice or landlines to call in to change my main greeting. Excuse me. So then you need to make sure your main numbers are set going to the virtual receptionist, but you can call in and then you enter in this PIN number. Now this PIN number is specific to this time of day, specifically my open hours. Right, so it only works during my open hours, meaning that I can only change my open hours greeting while my system is open, right? Now, if you just start up, that's usually not a big deal because you don't have a greeting in place. You're just going to hit the PIN number, and the system will then walk you through recording the file. If you have a greeting file in place, then like greeting A is playing, right? You enter in the PIN number. The system will still walk you through recording a new greeting. It doesn't give you the option to change the name of the greeting, right? So greeting A, the file name stays the same, but then I just replaced it. Whatever content was there, it's gone. I just overrode it. So that's something to be aware of, especially if like your normal greeting for most of the year, right? And then like holidays coming up, you want to change it for the holidays. You would want to switch the file that's in place if you're going to record it over the phone. And there's some other options for changing your greetings, which we'll get into. Well, we've gone through most of them. Here we have professional recording services. If you click order, this will take you to another website hosted by Snap Recordings. They have about 80 to 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have different versions of English, Spanish, and French, so you can do a multilingual greeting. They have what they refer to as hold treatment, so music file and a script and a music file. They handle their own pricing and their own billing. they deliver via email, so then you would then just upload your own file. All right, settings, number of retries on missed dial, excuse me. So basically, how many times can someone enter in an invalid option, right? So I don't have an option 5 listed here. So if the inbound caller presses 5, right, I have 0 retries. So that means they get that one opportunity. And the system goes, well, that's not valid. I'm going to send you to this default route. Right, so if I change this to 1, right, they get hit 5 twice before it goes to that default route. The dialing timeout, this is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes you're done, right? So I press 5, it waits for 1 second, doesn't hear anything else. Okay, so, they're done. That's what they wanted, and either sends them to 5 or in this case says, hey, that's an invalid entry. Allow outside recording. If you have this on, you're saying that a cell phone or landline user can call into the system and enter the PIN number to record over the phone. And then allow extension dialing, or allow dialing extensions. If you turn this on, that means if someone gets to your virtual receptionist, they can enter an extension number, right, if they know it, right? If you turn this off, they can only enter your menu options. Now, the default route, right, may be something you may not want to use, and that's only because of robo-dialers, right? So robo-dialer can come in, it's not going to hit a menu option, so eventually it would get to my default route, which would, in this case, just go through my smart directory before the call is ended. But if you had it go to, say, a voicemail box, right, you would get some weird voicemails, like a music file playing, or someone telling you a joke, or what have you. Or the Nigerian prince offering you a bunch of money if you would only send him 10 grand. So if you don't want a default route, or if you want to get rid of any existing route, you just click on the X here to the right. And then any changes you make, whether it's the main menu, greetings, or settings, you want to click Save here, and then you want to click Save Changes here under Incoming Call Handle. All right. Over here, call comes in. I'm offering it to Bob. If Bob isn't able to answer, then the call goes to the virtual receptionist. This is still my open hours virtual receptionist. So when I click on it, you'll see the same options we had previously. Right. Bob, where Bob's name is here, this is a pull down. So you can select other users, you can select groups, you can select devices, you can select call queues. I believe you can also select a media file. In that case, when the media file ends, then it just goes to the virtual receptionist. That can be confusing just because that means you probably have a second media file playing when you get to the virtual receptionist, so that can throw your customers off. Here we got ring groups, and then advanced call flows. So the main purpose of this second option is to give a staff member or multiple staff members, in the case of ring groups and queues, a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. Something to keep in mind here is when we're offering calls to a user, a group, or a queue, the system is only offering it to that person for 20 seconds. That's hard-coded in the system. That's not something we can change. So after 20 seconds, it's going to go to the virtual receptionist, no matter what. Over here, call comes in, offering it to Bob, and then it goes to Bob's voicemail. Again, same options, right? You can send it to other users, you can send it to groups, devices, a media file, advanced call flow, etc. And then you also have the option to skip the voicemail. So in terms of the skip the voicemail and then a voicemail box, I usually see this on holiday settings for customers, but not normally during their open hours. And then lastly, you have the option here to send callers to one of your other auto attendants. Now, these other tabs, right, your lunch hours and your after hours, right, they have these same options. Just bear in mind, the virtual receptionist for each one of these is unique, right? They're going to have different greetings. They would need to have set up different menu options. Right. Also, for this third option, calls are only offered again for 20 seconds. That's hard coded in. That 20 seconds can be significant if if that user is only making use of cell phones. It may not be enough time for the cell phone to ring, or if it's enough, it might not be enough time for your staff member to react to the phone ringing once, which is why that can be a concern. Right. Main conference number. You can unassign. You can add from spare, right? Or you can buy numbers, local or toll free, to add as a conference number. You can make your own conference greeting. This is a text-to-speech greeting. You just type in what you want and then click on save. Even if you have that disabled, when you call into the conference room, the system says, "Welcome to the conference. Please enter the conference room number," and then it'll ask you for the PIN. Main fax box number. You can have the one phone number. So if this was not here, you would have the option for add from spare or buy numbers. Now, on this account, the fax box is actually broken. So like if I click edit fax box, it's going to give me an error message. On your account, it will be fine. And that when you click on edit fax box, the window will pop open with two fields. The first field is for the incoming fax notification. Right. So basically, you put an email address in. When a fax comes in, that email address gets an email saying, "Hey, you got a fax," and includes a PDF that the person or people can then double click on their computer and look at the fax. The second box is for outbound permissions. You can put an email address in there, but it's typically designed to add an email domain. So if you own your own company domain, right? So everyone at your company has the same email address, right? bob.smith@abccleaners.com, and then mary.andrews@abccleaners.com, right? They all have that abccleaners.com domain. You can add that domain in that second field. Then anyone at your company can fax out, even if they're not a user on your Dash account, right? At that point, they just need to create an email and do that +1 area code phone number, and then @ your account realm, and attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, auto attendance. So this is a plan-specific feature. If this is something you're interested in, you would want to talk to our account services team to make sure if it's on your plan or not, and or what the cost difference would be to change to a plan that includes auto attendance. There are a couple of reasons you would want multiple auto attendants. The first is if you have multiple businesses that you want to have, have their own main number and their own main greetings, but you have to use the same staff across multiple businesses, right? So then each of these attendants could be its own business, right? They have their own phone numbers. They're going to have their own greetings and their own menu options, right? The other main reason I touched on earlier is for submenuing, right? So you want that one for English, two for Spanish kind of option. And it could be something else, right? You could say, press 1 for product A, press 2 for, special B, or, whatever kind of denotion where you're going to have multiple menus going through. Now, adding an attendant, right? You just up here at the top, click Add Attendant. You give it a name and you give it an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. Once attendant is created, if you click on the name, you can always remove the attendant. Here you have the available in main menu. That means, or currently it's unavailable in main menu. Excuse me. If you click on that, it'll change to available in main menu. So what that means is if it's available in main menu, that means it's possible to be a submenu, right? So under that incoming call handling under the main number, it would be one of the options you could put for one of your routes, right? Press 1 for this other attendant. If I say it's unavailable, well, that means it's not going to show up under the incoming call handling, the virtual receptionist, or any of my other attendants for that matter. It's basically standalone. I'm like, nope, the only way to get to this is either a phone number or one of my staff members transferred you to this attendant. All right, here we go. You got phone numbers. You can add from spare numbers. You can buy new numbers, right? So your attendants can have multiple phone numbers. The extension number, typically only your staff is going to know this, and they would use this as like if a call came in to what we got here into the Zoom attendant, and the customer actually needed to get to ADD, right? Your staff member could then transfer to extension 10022, and then the caller would get to the correct attendant. Now, if you click on the wrench icon under settings, and this will take a little bit, but here we go. You see here, call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. Now, these open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays, these will all match what you've set up under your main number, right? So now, if you have multiple businesses, but they have different hours of operation, then out of the box, you wouldn't be able to do this on one account, right? You would either have to have custom work done or advanced configuration, which may have a fee associated with it, or you would have to have multiple accounts, right? The attendants can only have the virtual receptionist as an option, right? They don't have those other routing options, at least currently. But again, same options, right? You add routes to give them menu options, you have your greeting options, and those same settings. All right, devices. This shows your devices on the account. Green means the system can send calls to it. Red means it's unregistered, meaning we can't send a call to it. And then black means you've disabled it over here on the right. To add a device, click Add Device at the top. We start off with SIP phone. So this is that physical VoIP phone that's on your desk. All right, you choose your manufacturer. All right, you select the model. You give it a name, right? Bob's phone, for example. And then you enter the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device. Often a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, if you click under like the menu status, you should be able to get to the MAC address from that as well, and can also be on the box the phone came in or the manual. But you enter that information here in the second field. You click on Create Device, and then you add the device to a user. In terms of the VirtualPBX dashboard here, that's all you need to do, but there's more to it. In the phone, you need to access the phone's web user interface, right, the web UI, and enter in a URL. Basically, it tells the phone, hey, go here. It will do so. It'll grab its configuration file. It'll reboot a couple times, and then it'll show up green on your devices page. Now, for the specifics of that URL, because I don't have that one memorized, you want to go under the dash support pages. On the right-hand side, under VoIP phones, you want to go under adding auto provisioning phones. There'll be some screenshots for the manufacturers, as well as that URL and what to look for. All right. Cell phone and landline are basically the same. You give it a name, you put the plus sign, the number 1 area code and phone number, and then you assign it to a person. You click on Create Device. Now, I'll go down here real quick. Go to Advanced Options. So this is default how a device is added to an account. So dash call comes in, goes to your cell phone, right? Your cell phone rings, you pick up. You're going to hear, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you need to do it fairly quickly. But 2, what you're doing is you're telling the system, yes, you are there, and yes, you want to take this call, right? It hears that tone, it connects that inbound caller to you, and you begin speaking. Now, that doesn't work for every situation. For example, let's say you're making use of an automated answering service for your after hours, right? That answering service probably can't press 1. So at that point, hold on a minute, I'm getting, hopefully you didn't hear all of those pings, but I'm going to turn off those notifications because that's just a little distracting. All right. So in the case of if you're making use of an automated answering service, then what you would want to do is put a check mark here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now when we send a call to that device, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? So now if you actually did that on your cell phone, right? If your cell phone voicemail picks up, right, we still treat that like a connected call, so that inbound caller gets to your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people love it, some people hate it, just something to be aware of. All right. The other thing that comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So customer Mary is giving you a call because she wants to talk about your product. It's ringing on your cell phone. You look at it, you're like, I don't know that number. I don't feel like talking to someone I don't know, right? Because you've getting a lot of robocalls or telemarketers. So you let it go to voicemail, right? Eventually you call back and you're not able to get a hold of Mary, etc. If you uncheck this, right? Oops, there we go. So customer Mary calls you on your phone, on your cell phone's display. The caller ID that shows up is your company phone number. And what I mean by that, close this out. If we go back to our dashboard page here, under caller ID, this phone number here that I have selected, that's the phone number that shows up on my cell phone. So then I'm now, oh, this is a work call. Let me take this. And hopefully you complete the sale or answer your customer's question. All right, next up, we have soft phone. First, you get this little warning message about wireless technology and that by dialing 911, you may not actually be at the location that your VoIP phone thinks you're at. So just be aware of that. And then here we are. Now, the system starts you off as if you're adding a third-party soft phone, right? So you're going to use a soft phone from Counterpath, or the physical VoIP phone that you have didn't show up under any of the manufacturers or the models that we listed under SIP phone. So then you would give it a name. You would use the SIP username, right? You would just copy and paste. And then the SIP password, you click on the box to reveal the password, and then you copy and paste. And then you also copy and paste the realm. You use those three pieces of information to program that application or device to get it to work. And basically, by getting it to work, that means it should be able to make and receive calls. Other features of those devices may or may not work, right? The main point of this is that you're just getting it to make and receive calls. Now, if you're going to use the VirtualPBX app, right? So, you've already downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or you want to use the desktop version, right? So you want to use it for Mac OS or Windows. What you want to do here, where it says use third-party application, click on that. It flips it to say, hey, use VirtualPBX application. You give it a name, you assign it to an owner, and then you click create device. When you click on create device, the person that you said that you assigned it to, they're going to get an email with their login information, right? Username and password. If they're using it on a mobile, then they can simply go to the relevant app store, download it, enter in those credentials, and they're good to go. If you're going to use it on Windows or Mac OS, you need to go to the web store and order the desktop version because there's a license fee associated with it. And then you'll get the download links, and I believe you also get a license key, which is what you also need to enter. The desktop version, the license fee starts at or list price is $39.99. I know it occasionally goes on sale for like $31 or $35, something like that. Oh, and then web phone. Can we get that same wireless warning message? You give it a name, you assign it to somebody, you click on create device. Once you do that for the web phone, the next time that staff member logs in, right, under the little help icon here, right, they'll have a web phone link. They can also just go to webphone.virtualpbx.net using Chrome or Firefox on either a desktop or laptop computer. It uses the same login information as your Dash login, right? So same email address, same password, same account name. And then you can make and receive calls right there from your browser. All right, next up, we've got the Greetings Manager. So this shows all your greetings on your account and their current name, the type or the source, right? TTS is text to speech. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means you recorded over the phone. This is a download link here, so you can download it and then listen to it on your computer or phone technically. The little wrench icon here means you can change the name to something that you recognize more easily, or you can get rid of it because you're like, oh, we don't need that one after all. You also have the option here to add a greeting. Again, this is assuming you have a .wave.mp3 file, right? And then you would give it a name, click on create greeting, it would upload it at that point. And so you notice I have 83 greeting files. So anytime I have an option for greeting media, right? So like under the virtual receptionist, right? That's why that list is so huge, because I have so many greeting files. All right, groups, shorthand for ring groups. This is basically departments. If you create a group, you just give it a name, give it an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members who are in that group over and click on create group. Now groups is part of your Dash plan, so there's no additional costs associated with them. Once a group's created, you can click on the name. Right, you can always change the name. Group call attempts, basically, if you click on here, there's little arrows here to the far right. You can click up or down to change the number of ring throughs. But basically, that's the inbound caller. How many times can they ring through to everybody in the group? Group members, I'm surprised there's only one. So let's add some users here. We'll add Bob. Here, we'll add all these people. Select. Now, along here, along the top, this is time codes, right? So we got like 5 seconds or 20 seconds, 40, etc. Up here, this is 120. So default for a new group is 120. You can change that. You can change it down to 60 if you want, or longer. And then I can click distribute. Right. So now it's ringing my staff in this order. Now, if I don't like this order, I can change it around. All right, click and drag people up where I need them to be. Then I click distribute again. So now I just changed the order. You can also do something like that. Oops. If you click on the slider here, right, you can adjust the slider. So you can do something like this. Right, this is referred to as blast ringing is what I'm setting this up for. So basically I'm ringing all my staff members for the full time until one of them picks up. Right, so call comes in, all their phones start ringing, and let's say Bob picks up, then everyone's phone stops. But now if a second call comes in and Bob's still on that first call, he's going to hear a call waiting beep until, say, David picks up. Right, then he won't hear that call waiting beep. That's something to keep in mind. All right, next up we got the extension. So groups can have both extensions and a phone number. They can actually have multiple extensions. You see here I have a phone number, right? So this phone number, if someone dials this 669 phone number, it goes directly to this group. Oh, I forgot to hit save changes on the members. And then another important thing to know about groups is your staff members. They can make use of cell phones, landlines, or VoIP devices without any issues. Click on group features, ringback. If you enable it, this allows you to upload a media file to playback while the inbound caller is waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. The main thing to remember is that this media file the duration should match or exceed your total time in this total ring time, right? Because the system doesn't automatically loop the file for you. Again, recorded in mono, .wave.mp3 under 1 megabyte. A megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. All right, so next action. If no one is able to pick up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Right, in this case, right now I have it going to this voicemail box, but if you click here on the pull down, you can see I can send it back to my main menu, right? So the virtual receptionist. I can send it to one of my other auto attendants. I can send it to a call queue. I can send it to a specific device. I can send it to another group. I can send it to one of my users, as well as any of the voicemail boxes. All right, allow call forward. If I click enabled, basically this is saying any of my users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal desk phone, but they're sending calls to, say, a cell phone. Caller ID prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add either text or numbers in front of the caller ID, so that way they know what kind of call they're about to get, right? So for staff members in multiple groups or queues, it's one of those helpful things like, oh, this is about this. All right, numbers, this takes you to the numbers manager. Numbers in use, these are numbers that are assigned, right? They go someplace on your system. These ones in red are failed porting attempts, so you can ignore those. Spare numbers, right? Numbers you're not using, but they're still on your account, meaning you're still being billed for them. Now, if I decide I no longer want phone numbers on my account, then you make sure you unassign them first, and then you come here. You notice once I clicked on the little box in front of it, now I have the option to delete. So I'll get rid of these numbers. You click on the delete option here. It says, are you sure you want to do this? You delete the numbers, and now they're off my account, because I saved a little bit of money on my bill. Right, under spare numbers, you have the option to buy, right, local toll free. These numbers get added to the spare number list, so then you can assign them later. Port, this starts the porting process. So porting in telecom means you're moving a phone number from one carrier to another, right? So say from T-Mobile to VirtualPBX, right? And then you would be basically following the on-screen directions. And then it asks you to upload a copy of your bill. It will also ask you to upload a letter of agency, or LOA. Now, within the process, there's also, it does give you the ability to download a blank letter of agency and then later to upload a completed and signed LOA. Now, on the letter of agency, right, the LOA, it's going to ask you for company information. That company information should match what your current carrier has on file for that phone number, right? So if that phone number you're moving is under, say, John Smith, right? He's the owner of that phone number as far as T-Mobile is concerned. Then you have to have his name, his address, or whatever address he has on file, right? And he needs to sign it, all right? And then you would upload that document and submit both that and the bill. Now, in terms of signing it, it can be a digital signature, right? It just simply cannot be typed. That when people like type in their name and then type it in for the signature, that gets rejected every time. Now, in terms of the bill copy, that should be within 30 days. Something to keep in mind, for toll-free numbers, typical porting process or time frame is about 3 to 5 business days, so assuming everything's correct. Local numbers can take anywhere from 1 business day to, say, 2 to 3 weeks. Now, the 1 business day I typically only see with Google Voice numbers, where the customers, you've already unlocked the number, right? So you just fill out the LOA, As long as it matches what Google has on file, they release it to us the next day, from what I've seen. Now, if for some reason you're not able to upload the documents into the porting tool here, or it didn't completely submit, you can always email porting@virtualpbx.com with those documents. They can still port your numbers as long as they have the documents that way. When you submit via this port process here, you should, after you initially submit, you should get one automated email right away. You should get a second email from our porting team the next business day saying, yes, we got your documents, and yes, we submitted the port request. All right, users. Adding a user, you go up here and add their name, right? Enter their name, put in an email address. The email address used for login is unique for each user. You create a password for them, and then you assign them an extension. You can enter in any extension number you want, right? So I can enter in 4210 here, and that's valid extension as far as the system is concerned. Options here, right? Create a voicemail box for the user. We do recommend it. That's why it's automatically done for you. Up to you if you want to put them in the user directory or not. Send to an alternate address. If this is checked and you put an email address here, this will supersede this address when it comes to sending voicemail notifications or the cell phone credentials, password reset, etc. And then this one here, send credentials to the user. I always recommend that. If you're only creating the one user, you click on Create User. Over here, this is if you need to add multiple people. Now on this page, little gray person icon, that's just your standard user. Person with the blue suit is one of your system admins. Right, if you click on their name, you can change their name. If you click on Change Credentials, you can change their email address or their password or both. You also have the option here, right there, to have them or have the system send them the password reset, right? So like if the passwords you create, you have one of your staff members can never remember whatever passwords you create for them. It's like, here, make your own, and hopefully they won't have problems logging in. Voicemail box PIN, you can enter in 4 digits here. Now, for your VoIP phone users, you don't actually have to do this for them because since you created a voicemail box when you created the user, if they hit *98 on their VoIP phone, that will log them directly into their voicemail box. And the system will then prompt them to make a PIN number as well as record their voicemail greeting. For your cell phone or landline users, you do need to create a PIN number for them. All right, here's the option to send to an alternate address, as well as to be in the company directory or not. This is a pull down, so you can make a user into an admin or an admin into a user. Here's time zone for the users, and you can do a search here for the appropriate time zone. Here we've got the display language, English, French, German, or Russian, right? And this is what displays on the web page for this user. Ringing timeout measured in seconds. So the default is 20 seconds. 20 seconds is plenty of time to say a landline or most VoIP phones. For your cell phone users, you would want to up this to 45 seconds or more. Essentially, in terms of how PBX systems work when it's sending calls out, right? So a call comes in, and I'm sending it to a landline, right? So we send it to that telecom. That telecom, landline carrier, like, oh, we know exactly where that phone's, and sends the call right away, right? Versus call comes in, we need to send it to cell phone carrier. Cell phone carrier goes, hold up a sec. We need to find them first, right? Pings the cell phone towers, finds you, then they send the call through. It's that delay in terms of finding you is why you need to have a longer ring time for cell phones than you do for a landline, for example. And then lastly, you've got the main extension as well as your caller ID privacy. Over here, you got your extensions. You can have multiple extension numbers for your users. I'm not quite sure why this is taking so long. There we go. So you can add more if you need to. Users can have their own phone numbers. And in fact, I can add multiple if I want to, right? So I can either buy local toll free, or I can add from my spare number list. Devices. You can add devices directly to a user, right? We got the same options as we did under the devices page. I personally find it easier to add the VirtualPBX soft phone app as well as the web phone directly on the user page. That way I know I'm on the right person. But there is basically no difference between doing it on the user page or the devices page. Then we've got user features. So first we got caller ID number. This only applies to users who have their own phone number. By turning it on and you select their number or one of their phone numbers, this is the phone number that shows up as their outbound caller ID instead of the main company number. And likewise, if we go back to the numbers here, right, I had the little gear icon, so I can set up their E911 directly for this person if it's different than my company numbers. Call forwarding. So you got off, on, and failover mode. Off, obviously, you're not using it. On says, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Send it to this device. Now, call forwarding like this, your users can set up themselves, right? They can do this via their user portal, right? Everyone has their own user portal. And if they're a VoIP phone user, they can actually set it up from the VoIP phone. That's just making use of feature codes. Now, failover mode is for your VoIP phone users, right? So I don't know if I made this clear earlier, but the system can detect if a VoIP phone loses registration, meaning we can't send calls to it. So if that happens and you have failover mode set up on call forwarding, so this user's VoIP phone drops offline, call comes into his user at that time, the system says, oh, well, the VoIP phone's offline, but we already know his failover call forwarding, so we'll just send it to this device, right? So then, your user would get the call, hopefully handle it, and then go, what's wrong with my VoIP phone, right? Maybe it's just, the dog ran by and ripped cables out of the router or the phone itself. Maybe they actually lost internet connection and didn't realize it right away, what have you. Hot desking, if you enable this, this is a VoIP feature. You create a hot desk ID. I normally recommend making use of an extension number. So especially if you're making use of a 4-digit extension number, that's easy. Up to you if you want to have a PIN. So how this is used. This is designed for a situation where you're in an office environment where you can be sitting at different desks from day to day, right? So a shared office environment, bullpen situation. So I came in today after the holiday, and I sat at desk number 7. I go to the VoIP phone, I pick up, I hit *11 on the VoIP phone, right? That turns on hot desking on that phone. Then the system asks me for my hot desk ID, and then PIN number if my admin set it up that way. And then it says calls will be forwarded to this device. So that means any call that comes to my user, whether I'm in a group or directly to my extension, will ring at that phone that I'm sitting at today, right? End of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Right? Next day, the next time I come into the office to work, right, since a lot of us are still probably working remotely, and someone's already sitting at desk number 7, so I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of a bummer, but hey, desk number 22, you're today's winner. I sit down at it, pick up the VoIP phone, I hit *12 on that device, enter in, *11, enter in my hot desk ID, and then calls are again coming to me at that phone, at that desk. Voicemail box, right, was created when the user was created. Not a big deal there. And you have these other options here. Fax box. You can set up your users to have their own fax boxes. Oops. Oh, that's right. Fax box on that user. All right. So if you click enabled, you can select a phone number or you can select an extension. If you select an extension, right, this is an additional extension, right? So it has to be a unique extension. So this gives you the list of your currently used extensions, right? You can also just type in a search to see if one's already being used. Once you find an available extension number, you enter it here and click on Select Extension. Now, I don't normally recommend making use of the extension number for faxing because you're relying then on your person who's faxing to you, right? They have to dial your main number, wait for the greeting to start, then they have to enter in the fax extension, and then start fax on their fax machine. Not every fax machine may allow them to do that, right? They may not have an easy way to listen for when to enter in that fax extension number. Or there might not be a way to add pauses after the phone number to enter in a fax extension number. Or if you're making use of an email to fax service, not all of them allow for faxing to extensions. So in most cases, it's going to be easier, or at least less aggravating, to just have a fax box number, or fax box have its own phone number. And even then, this would only make sense for on a user level because you have a particular user who gets a ton of faxes on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis, right? Otherwise, you can just make use of the general fax box. Conference Bridge. So you would click Enable to allow a user to host a conference. It tells you the conference phone number. By default, it uses your extension number as your conference room number. And then as an admin, you just need to create a PIN number for them and click Save Changes. This PIN number, the user can change later via their user portal. All right, Follow Me. Actually, this is not a good user to use Follow Me on. So Follow Me is mostly designed for users with multiple devices. You click Enabled, and now you need to tell the system what devices you're going to use for this person. So you uncheck whichever ones you want to use. Up here, you got that total ring time, which is 120 by default. You can click Distribute. Right, you got sliders, so you can slide them around if you need to. And just like in ring groups, if I want to change the order, right, I can do that if I want to. All right, music on hold. You can set up user on hold music for each user. Right, just upload .wave, .mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click on the up arrow here. Again, this only comes into play when they press hold on their wave phones. Customized call recording. When it's initially enabled, it's going to look like this. Right, so then you need to decide which kinds of calls you're recording. Right, inbound internal means coworker Bob is calling me. Inbound external means customer Mary is calling me. Outbound internal means I'm calling coworker Bob. And then outbound external means I'm calling customer Mary. Right, so internal means within the system, right? Another user on the dash count. External means someone with outside of the system. And then do not disturb means I'm not taking call. All right, voicemail boxes. You click up here to add a voicemail box. You give a name, a voicemail number, and a PIN number. You click on Create Device. Now, the reason you would create a voicemail box would be for like your ring groups or your ACDQs, instead of using someone's, one of your staff members' personal voicemail boxes for those instances. Once you've created a voicemail box, or even any of your existing user voicemail boxes, you can click on the little wrench icon here. If you go to Advanced, go to Greeting and Media, you can upload, right, their voicemail greeting. Right, give it a name, find the file, .wave, .mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. You notice here, you also have a temporary option. So this is for, you would use if someone's going on vacation, right? So they can have, you can select a file or upload a file. And the temporary file will supersede the media file until you send temporary back to none. Right? If temporary is set to none, then it just goes back to your media file. Next up, recipients. For your user voicemail boxes, they already have one recipient built in, right? Because you have that email address used for login. That's the email address that also gets the voicemail delivery. If you need to add additional people, you just click on Add Recipients and you add their email address. Now, especially for the manually created voicemail boxes, once you have a media file and the recipients, you can click on Already Set Up. And then you've got these other options down here. In fact, these two. Delete after notification. So the system by default gets voicemail in and then sends an email to the user or the recipient for this case, in this case. And in that email, there's the attachment file. Now, the delete after notification comes into play because a voicemail box can only hold 100 messages. After that, it says mailbox is full. Please try again later. So if you're already emailing out the the voicemails with the attachment, if you click delete after notification, then you don't have to worry about your voicemail boxes getting full, right? And then your staff members have the voicemail in their email, right? They can, depending on how advanced they are, they can set up a special folder for voicemails, so that way they can keep them for as long as they need to. Likewise, the attached messages to email, if for some reason you don't want them to have the attachment, like you want to make them log into the system to listen to it over either the user portal or over the phone, then you would want to uncheck this and this, right? So that way they still get an email saying, hey, you have a voicemail. There's just no attachment now. And it's still kept on the system so they can call in and check it over the phone or through the user portal. All right, advanced routing. Right now, the only thing that shows up here for most accounts would be direct inward system access. For most accounts, you do need to request that to be enabled. But what it is, so what DISA is it allows a cell phone or a landline users to call into your system to log in over the phone and then make an outbound call. And when they make that outbound call, the caller ID that shows up is not their cell phone number, but your company number. All right, so you come here, you click Enable. It has a PIN number. You can always change that. You can click Edit Settings. So here you can change the PIN number. I usually say add an extension number as well. Now you click Save Changes. So now any phone number that rings to your virtual receptionist, right? Your staff members can call in from their cell phone. They enter in this extension number, then they enter in this PIN number. They'll hear dial tone again. They enter in area code and phone number that they wish to call. Then they make that, then they'll hear ringing again. And that destination device, right? They're not going to see your cell phone number. Instead, right? If we go back to the dashboard here. Under caller ID, right, they're going to see this phone number show up as the inbound caller ID, right? That way, your customer isn't getting your cell phone number unless you want to give it to them personally. Now, the reason this isn't enabled by default on new accounts is that it's possible for someone to figure out the extension number and PIN number and then make outbound calls on your account, and you may not realize it right away unless you're watching your call logs like a hawk, which means they could be running up your bill. So that's why, because of that potential for fraud, it's not enabled by default. But if it's something you want, you can send in a request and we can get that enabled for you. Call logs, this shows your call activity on your account. Right, green arrow to the right means a call came into the system. And if you click on it, you can see here, call came in. Now, originator cancel tells you that the inbound caller hung up, but you can see here that the call was being offered to this, looks like cell phone device, right? But then the inbound caller hung up before your staff member was able to answer the call. Right here, you see call came in, it reached this phone number, and then the call ended. This tells me, one, because of the duration, but also because it didn't reach anyone, the person hung up. They got to a greeting and said, oh, wrong number. If you ever see a yellow arrow to the left, that means it's an outbound call. Here you see call came in again, and you reached any cancer. You normally want to see normal clearing because that tells you the call just ended normally. Nothing special happened. Lose race, that means there's multiple devices or users attempt getting a call, right? So I went to a ring group, for example, or a user with multiple devices active. So anything that says lose race means that device did not answer the call. Someone else did, or the inbound caller hung up. Oops, wait, didn't mean to do that. One thing to keep in mind is you can download the file. Just downloads that as a CSV file. Also under custom, you can select a custom date range and then download the file. Okay, feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these already. These are just shortcuts used from a VoIP phone, typically, to access different features. All right, so we got call center login, so that's for making use of ACD queues. Here are the call forwarding ones, which I touched on briefly, hot desking, etc. These are also published on our website, so you don't have to log in to your Dash account to find them. All right, so that's everything that was in the dashboard. Let's go over to ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. This is essentially a more advanced version of groups, right? So groups, you can only have calls routed a couple different ways, right? People in sequence, people all at once, or some combination of those two kinds of options. ACD queues allow for more routing kind of options. However, currently on queues, your staff members can only accept calls from a queue call from a VoIP device. So a soft phone, physical VoIP phone, or the web phone, right? They can't use cell phones or landlines currently. Adding a new queue, you would click Add New Queue. Otherwise, you click on the gear icon on an existing queue. One thing to keep in mind, queues are an add-on feature. The price will vary depending on the plan that you're on, so that's something you'd want to talk to account services about. I believe currently pricing is about $15 to $30 per month per queue. Again, that depends on plan. This is the standard queues. There's also ACD Queues Pro, which have some more features. They also have a higher price point. I believe it's $99 per month per queue. But again, that's something, if you're interested in queues in general, you want to talk to our account services team, and they can also tell you price difference between Pro and Standard. All right, so in terms of the queue setup, you give it a name. A queue can have either a phone number or an extension number, but queues and groups can both also be menu options, right, off of your virtual receptionist. So there's a couple ways to always get to a queue. Then here you've got the routing strategy, and unfortunately the pull down is not working. Most idle, that means of your staff members who are logged into the queue, who's been waiting for the call the longest will get the next call, right? You also have the option for ring all, right? So everyone rings until someone picks up. Next up is round robin, right? Calls equalize out over time among your staff members. You have least offered. So let's say Bob and Mary are logged into my queue. Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5. Under least offers, the next call that comes in goes to Mary. Related to that is least calls. That means the least amount of connected calls. So let's say in that scenario where Bob's been offered 20 calls, let's say he spoke to only 2 people. Mary's been offered 5 calls, but she spoke to all 5. So the next call that comes in under least calls goes to Bob. And will continue to go to Bob until he gets to 5 or until someone else logs in. All right, hold treatment. You can upload a music file, right? .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. On ACD Queues Pro, the hold treatment is a bit more granular. You have options of adding the expected wait time, the inbound caller's position, right? How many people are ahead of them. You can do multiple music files, and you could do something like start with a music file or a greeting file like "Thank you for calling. Please wait while your call is holding," and then your expected wait time. So you can have another media file play after that. Then you can put in their position, then another media file. You can keep going for quite a while. That's under ACD-Q's Pro. All right. Queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold, measured in seconds. The queue call limit. This is how many callers are allowed to wait on hold. Right. So this is on top of calls that are already speaking to staff members. Right. So if I have Bob and Mary logged in the queue and they're both talking to staff members or talking to inbound callers, 4 more additional people can wait on hold. Right. So a total of 6 calls. If I put this at 0, that means there's no limit. Now, timeout immediately if empty. This basically means if I have no staff members, treat any inbound call as if they've hit this queue timeout. Right? You have a little question mark icon here that explains that. Escalation queue, you can set calls to another second queue, but basically your staff members are busy, the system can send calls to a second queue. And then the escalation call flow after timeout, basically you can say, hey, after that 3,600 seconds, where are you going to send it call? You can, if you select none, that means the call ends. You can send it to one of your attendants. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a group. You can send it to the directory. You can send it to a media file, voicemail box, a user, etc. Again, we don't recommend the media file because once the media file ends, call ends, or a device just because you can't, just because if the device doesn't pick up, then the call ends as well. So it may not be the best customer experience. One thing to keep in mind, if you're making use of escalation queue, so let's say the call enters this queue first and then goes to a second queue. The queue timeout is still being counted from this queue, from when the call first entered this first queue. Right, so then once 3,600 seconds expires, even if the call is in the escalation queue, it will get sent to this voicemail box because the timer started when they entered this particular queue. Agent behavior, agent recovery time measured in seconds, usually anywhere from 0 to 30 seconds. Basically, when an agent is done with a call, the system will not offer them another call from this queue for this amount of time, right? So they have time to get a drink of water, update notes, etc. Force away on rejected or missed. If this is enabled, that means if an agent misses a call, if they're put in away mode and they have to mark themselves as ready before they take calls again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds, in this case 20, which is plenty since queues only take calls to VoIP phones. And then save changes for any changes you make. All right, over here to the left, we've got the members section. So this is my list of people who can be in my queues. If I click on manage members, I have these are people who are not currently in queues. If I click on them, I can then add them to be a part of the group of people who are in my queues. Right, notice this one up to 16. And likewise, I can remove people from queues if I want to. Now, if we go back to the queues list, you click Add Agents. Now, this is all the people who are available to be in queues. These are the people who are already assigned to the queue. All right, I can click and drag people to remove them from the queue. And likewise, I can click and drag and put them back and put them into the queue. Now, once you have agents added, if you click on Add Managers, that's when you can click and drag someone to make them a manager, like I did for David here. Now, for your staff members, right, so they would click up here and get to ACD queues. They're not going to have the option for adding a queue unless they're an admin, but they would click on Begin Session. And now you know I'm in this queue now, but I'm marked away, right? And I'm marked away up here. To make myself ready, I just marked myself all as ready. That means in every queue I'm logged into, I am now ready, and I can get a call, right? Green means I'm ready to take a call. Blue means I'm on an inbound call. Red means I've marked away. Gold means I'm on an outbound call or external call, and there's a darker gold, I guess, is when I'm on wrap-up time, right? So I ended a call. Then up here on the little phone icon, this is where I can select devices, right? You want to select one of your VoIP devices to receive calls on, and then you can close this. For pro queues, you have another section in here called performance, so you can compare two agents to each other or more in terms of their call efficiency. Also, pro queues, they have the ability to allow managers to listen into a call as well as whisper to their staff members, right, to give them help and or barge in to take over a call if necessary. All right, and if you mark all the way, that would be like if you're going to lunch, and then end session would be at the end of your day. Blacklist. This is an included feature on Dash Accounts. This allows you to block numbers from reaching your account. Right? So you've got the inbound caller ID of someone who's been harassing your staff members. What you do is you come in here, click Edit Blacklist. If you don't have a list, you just click Add. Otherwise, you choose a created list already. You give the list a name. Block anonymous. If you turn this on, if the Dash system doesn't get a valid inbound caller ID, then with this on, that means we're blocking calls from it. Right. Otherwise, you would click Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, and click Add. Right. No dashes, no parentheses, no spaces, just +1 area code and number. And you keep adding numbers until you've added all your numbers. You would then click Save. Then you go back to Settings. And then you want to make sure your active lists are on the right-hand side under Selected. And then you click Update. So now any of the phone numbers that are listed on these two lists, if they try to call into my system on any of my phone numbers, they just get busy talk. Right? They're not able to go through. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature, meaning if you're interested in this, you're going to need to talk to account services. But essentially, this allows you to create your own feature codes to change your outbound caller ID. So if you look at, you can go to this one here. So you give it a name. You select a phone number on your account. And then in this case, I said, hey, whenever I dial this area code, make this my caller ID. All right, now if we click on this one here, right here, I said, hey, use this feature code, right? So what happens is I pick up my VoIP phone, I hit *71, then I enter one area code and phone number to whoever I'm dialing, and then my outbound caller ID will be displayed as this number. Now the number that you choose to display needs to be a number on your account. Faxes, this goes to your fax boxes on the account. So as an admin, you can get to any fax box on your account. You can then take a look at inbound faxes as well as the outbound faxes on an account or on a user. And then you can also see the email to fax logs. And so this tells you like thumbs down, right? Didn't go through. You can see here's the user. Here's what the number they're trying to fax to. If you click on the little eyeball here, you'll see, hey, there was an error converting the attachment, right? So it was a bad attachment, essentially. Likewise on this one here, you'll say, hey, this person doesn't have an account. I.e., it might have been someone who used their personal email address versus the company email address to fax out. The monitor, this is also a plan-specific feature, but this allows you to see the status of your staff members in terms of their user, right? So green means they're available for a call, right? Blue, they're on an inbound call. Yellow, on an outbound call. Red, they've marked themselves away. And then gold, they're on wrap-up time. The number manager, this takes you back to your number manager, so you can see your spare numbers and numbers in use. The recordings manager, that takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, so you can, and it uses your dash login, and you can go there to see your recordings. You can play them back, you can download them, etc. Reports is for advanced reporting. This is, again, plan specific. You're going to want to talk to account services if you're interested in this. But basically, the reports allows you to create your own custom reports to get a better idea of what calls are doing or the behavior within the system, right? So you can compare your staff members to like who's been getting more calls, or like when you're like what are your busiest times of day, kind of thing. Voicemails, you can get to any voicemail box on the account as an admin. All right, you just choose a voicemail box. Oh. Pretty sure there's one on this one. Yep. So you can see the status, the date, the phone number that came from, the phone number they dialed, the duration. You can listen to it. You can download it. You can get technical details. I believe this is what this is. Yeah. Up here, if you click on the checkbox, then you can, right, this is more useful if you've got many messages, so you can see everything, just the new messages, listen to messages, the ones that you've marked deleted. Up here, you can also mark a message as new, so that way it just keeps highlighted as being a new message. You can mark it as listened, so that way you don't have any notifications on VoIP devices that you have a new message. Mark it for deletion, which means in a few days it will be deleted from the account, or just delete it outright. And here you can move a voicemail to a different user, right? Like, oh no, this doesn't belong with David, this should be to Bob. And just move the voicemail message that way. Webhooks, this allows you to link Dash to other software via APIs. If you're interested in webhooks, you do need to speak to our sales team, actually. They have some additional information available for that. You can also see what we have done with webhooks via developer.virtualpbx.com. We've done quite a bit with it, actually, and I haven't had a chance to look at everything we've done. And lastly, let's go look at the user portal. So every user on your account has a user portal, and only you can access your own user portal, right? So as an admin, you can't see someone else's user portal, but for the most part, you can get to everything that they do, that they have, right? So here, see that same voicemail. I have the option to play back and download it. If I click on the little box here, right, I can again sort, as well as mark as new, mark as listened, or mark as deleted. Call history. This basically shows my calls in and out. And I can adjust the date range faxes. I can see my fax history if I had one on this user. Contact list, this is all your Dash users, ring groups, etc. As a user, this is not something you can add to. This is just internal within your account. Conference. So this is where your users control their conferencing. So over here on the right are settings they can control, right? They can update their moderator PIN as well as their participant PIN number. And then do people come in muted or deafened, as well as playing entry and exit tones. Right, these are little checkboxes here. Up here, you can invite other Dash users into your conference. You can lock a conference so other people cannot join. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the call. When you're actually within a conference, you can actually mute a specific participant as well as kick a specific participant if you need to. And then settings and devices, this is where your users can set up their own call forwarding, right? They can just click here, put in the +1 area code and phone number that they're going to send to, and then they have these other options if they want to, and then click on save, as well as see the status of their devices. All right, let's go back to the dashboard. All right, so that is everything. I'm gonna wait a round for a minute or two, see if anyone has any questions via chat. But if you don't, then feel free to go about your day, and I thank you for coming today. We will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. But as I said, I'll wait around for a couple minutes to see if people have questions. right, that was definitely longer than a couple minutes. Not seeing any questions come through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and hope to see you next Tuesday.